while our facilitator just running a little late. We'll go through the logistics at the beginning of this thing. But yeah, welcome to April Equity Advisory Group for the Interstate Bridge Replacement Program. I'm Jake War. Pronouns are he, him, and I'm on the equity team for IBR. So I'll get us started here. All right. So the option for closed captions in both English and Spanish within Zoom and within YouTube. If you're watching on YouTube, there's a link for a separate browser window with Spanish captions if you'd prefer that. To go to that, the address is ibr.news/captions. Few reminders. We encourage you all to turn on your video if you feel comfortable. Feel it makes a good little bit more a little closer to the real meeting space when we have folks on video. Please say your name when you begin to speak, and then if you experience technical difficulties, you can contact program staff 360-329-6744. There will be an opportunity to provide brief public input later in the meeting today. You can always submit input after the meeting, and we will make sure that this group sees it. The email to send that to is info@interstatebridge.org with EAG Public Comment in the subject line, or you can call. The number is 888-503-6735. Just let them know that you're leaving a comment about the EAG. So for the agenda today, we'll have our traditional icebreaker go round. We'll have update from our program administrator, Greg Johnson. We'll get an overview from Frank Green about the IBR financial plan, then a brief overview, kind of high level of what Section 106 is. That's the National Historic Preservation Act and the work being done on the program with respect to that, including an online open house that we launched today. Then we'll have public comment and close out from there. So our icebreaker, go around, give name, pronouns if you choose, your affiliation, and what is one of your favorite movies? Doesn't have to be your absolute favorite, but just one that comes to mind. So who would like to kick us off?
I can go first. My name is Barbie Alexander, and I'm the Shared Prosperity Program analyst with the Port of Portland, and I use she, her pronouns. And my favorite movie, well, one of them is The Cloud Atlas with Tom Hanks and Halle Berry.
And then you can just go ahead and pass it to someone else.
I would love to pass it to Nicole Chen.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. My name is Nicole Chen, but feel free to call me Nikki. I am the business partner for the Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion for the City of Vancouver. I literally started this position April 3rd, so I'm new to the team. And my favorite movie, it's a toss-up between Dreamgirls and Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? Both kind of musicals a little bit. So yeah. Nice to meet everyone.
Welcome. I'll pass it over to Jonathan.
Hi, yeah, my name's Jonathan Eder. I'm with the Port of Vancouver. I'm the director of HR there. I use he, him pronouns, and I don't know if I can come up with a favorite movie. That's a tough one. But one that comes to mind that I really enjoyed was Napoleon Dynamite. Good comedy. And let's see. I will hand it off to Vicky Nakashima.
Thank you. Vicky Nakashima here. I use she, her pronouns. I'm retired. I'm involved on some volunteer projects. I've been involved for many years with Partners in Diversity and a number of other nonprofits. I'm a former ODOT employee, and I actually remember when the Glenn Jackson Bridge was built. And my favorite movie is Harold and Maude, an oldie but goodie. So check it out. Let's see, Pat Daniels, I'll send it to you.
Hi, Vicki. It's good to see you. It's been a long time. And actually everybody, because I've been missing for a few meetings, but my name is Pat Daniels. I use she, her, hers. I'm the executive director at Constructing Hope. And I'm going to say my new favorite movie is Woman King. I've watched it several times. There's so many valuable things in that story. So I will pass it to Aiden. It's good to see you.
Hi there, Pat. It's good to see you, my friend. Aiden Gronauer, Civil Rights Manager for Interstate Bridge. And I use they, them, or he, him pronouns. Either one works for me. Let's see. I really like documentaries. So some of my favorites are like Planet Earth and stuff like that, because I'm really into nature and animals and stuff like that. So those are some of my favorite movies. I will pass it to my friend, Alicia Sojourner.
Thank you. Good evening, y'all. Alicia Sojourner, pronouns them, they. I have the honor of serving as Director of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion for the City of Vancouver. I have a long list of favorite movies, but I would say the only movie I can put on mute and say every line by heart would be Coming to America. So that's going to be at my top. And I will pass it on to George.
Yes, hi. Thank you, everybody. My name is George Carrillo. I am the executive director of an organization called Latino Built. My pronouns are he, him, él. And my favorite movie has always been The Matrix. I don't know what it is about sci-fi. I love sci-fi and the whole thing of being able to be a superhero against the machines. Keeps me watching it over and over again. Great to be here. Thanks, everybody.
All right, I'm going to pass it to Shane.
Hey, Shane Valley, City of Portland, Bureau of Transportation Planning. He, him. It's really hard to pick a favorite. Something that has stuck with me for a while since rewatching it has been Groundhog Day. That was a really good. I feel like the message behind that movie is just really good. I'm gonna pass it to Emily.
Hi everyone, I'm Emily Thomas Peralta, she, her pronouns. I'm with the equity team on IBR, and my favorite of all time has to be Young Frankenstein, because I'm a big Gene Wilder fan and Mel Brooks movies. And then a more modern that I enjoy is Interstellar, because I'm very big into astronomy and all of that. And I will go ahead and pass it to, let's see, Cassie.
Hi there. My name is Cassie Rippey. I am the tribal liaison for the Interstate Bridge Replacement Program. My pronouns are she, her, and my favorite movie, well, one of my favorite movies is Twister. I've lost track of who has not gone yet, so I'll ask somebody who knows the folks better.
Let's go to Josh.
Hi, everybody. Good evening. My name is Josh Laurenti, he, him. I am the Policy and Advocacy Manager at Opal Environmental Justice Oregon and a new member of the Equity Advisory Group. It's good to be with you all this evening. Such a hard check-in question, Jake. I love movies and I love hearing all your recommendations. I am thinking about the movie Everything Everywhere and the shine that Michelle Yeoh is getting. And I'm reminded that my favorite Michelle Yeoh movie is actually Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, co-starring Chow Yun-fat, directed by Ang Lee. It's a classic, one of the best kung fu movies out there. Up there with like Ip Man is another really good one. I could be on this check-in question all day, but I'll stop there and pass it over to Tanya. Tanya, have you gone?
No, I haven't. I'm Tanya Adams with the IBR, Senior Vice President for Inclusion and Diversity for WSP, go as she, her. And this is a hard one, torn between two. An old one is Dog Day Afternoon, one of my favorite movies because my brother really enjoyed watching it because my sister beat me up that same day, and that became our favorite movie. Sad to say that. And lately, 21 Bridges, Chadwick. Greg, have you went yet?
I have not. So my name is Greg Johnson. I'm the IBR Program Administrator. And my favorite movie, and those who have been around me for more than a day know this, The Godfather.
And let's see, I think so Jennifer is not
Frank,
yet, right?
Well, Frank hasn't gone.
And Frank.
Good evening, everyone. Frank Green, Assistant Program Administrator. I do use he, him pronouns, and you know, I can say I've watched every movie so far, so I'm a huge movie fan. And I gotta go with Emily with the Christopher Nolan one as Inception being one of my favorite movies of all time. Well written, you gotta think, you gotta watch it, pay attention, but a great score as well. So I'm gonna have to go with Inception there. But I could have came up with 1,000 like everyone else. So yeah, I'll throw it over to Jennifer.
Hi, good evening. Jennifer Campos with the Regional Transportation Council. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm a principal transportation planner with RTC. And like everybody said, great suggestions. And I would probably go with the Lord of the Rings trilogy. Those have to be one of my 3 favorite movies that I have. Thank you.
And our esteemed facilitator, Dr. Hunt, is here. And so why don't you go for this one?
Thank you. Roberta Suzette Hunt, she, her pronouns. I apologize for my tardiness. And Moana is popular at my house. And I'm not mad at it. So that's good enough. So I think we are now, that's everyone. Am I right, Jake? That's everyone?
Yep, I believe so.
Good. Okay. So let's pass to Mr. Greg Johnson, our program administrator, for April's update.
Well, once again, good afternoon, everyone, or good evening as it's closing in on 6 p.m. out there. So it is it's my pleasure to be here with you. And we've had another busy month with IBR. We have given another tour of the bridge where we invited Oregon legislators to come and view the bridge and some of the program area with us. And it was probably our best tour to date. We had some great comments of folks who saw some of the issues up close and personal and recognized that, you know, the simplistic solutions that are put forward just don't always fit in a very complex, compact area. So very worthwhile. But speaking of the Oregon legislature, as you may have heard, they have put bill language forward to fund Oregon's share of the construction funding necessary for this project. So that's $1 billion. And as you already know, Washington has put forward their $1 billion. So that language is being discussed. I was in Salem last Thursday with the director of ODOT to testify and give a presentation on the on IBR and where things are at. So it was well received. There are still a number of folks who think that this is not the right project. They think it's oversized, overbuilt, or planned to be overbuilt. But once again, we're listening, and we take all constructive comments to heart to integrate them into the program. But once again, we have a large problem and it requires a large solution. So that large solution is not the size of the bridge, but it is making sure that all the interchanges in the area function well, that we get light rail extended across the river, bike ped connections, not only across the river, but to connect to local and regional facilities. So it was a good conversation. The other thing that's happening in the state of Washington, they have legislation in front of their legislature was passed out of their Senate, now in front of their House. And so I was in Olympia also last Thursday to testify on tolling authority in the state of Washington. So that is the third leg of the funding stool to get this thing built. So we have the local funds, which are funds from both states, which we are hoping for $2 billion. For tolling, we are hoping for $1.25 billion. And the remainder we are looking for from the federal government, from both FTA and Federal Highway Administration. So, but it was a good conversation. That bill we think will be up for a vote later this week, as Washington session is quickly coming to a close. So those are the key important things that are happening. We are still on schedule to drop a draft supplemental environmental impact statement towards the end of this year. And we will give a 60-day comment period for folks to comment on. But we are also working towards getting the final supplemental done by the end of 2024 and achieve a record of decision by the end of 2024. And that will keep us on our schedule, which is key critical for mega projects, so costs don't escalate and explode on us. So all of these things are moving forward. The team is working hard. You're going to hear from Assistant Program Administrator Frank Green to talk about where we are at on our financial document that you will be able to find on our website. So this will hopefully get everybody up to speed on what we're asking for and what those sources are to accomplish it. So with that, I'll take any questions or concerns that the group may have. You guys can't be that shy. All right, I see no questions. So Dr. Hunt, I will turn it back to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Johnson. And let's pass to the IBR financial plan with Frank Green.
Thank you. And once again, welcome everyone. You know, I wanted to start this presentation by saying a lot of what Greg just said. So I was going to thank Greg because he's been kind of going all over the place to represent the program at both legislative within both legislative sessions. But he mentioned last Thursday was a pretty busy day. He started the day in Olympia to testify on a toll authorization bill, and then ended up in Salem to have a good presentation to the Oregon legislature there. So, that kind of leans in on, some of the important work that's going on right now regarding financial planning. If you'll remember, I was here to this group presenting, or it was either me or Ray, maybe, I think, we're presenting the cost estimates late last year as we had developed them from the modified locally preferred alternative that had been identified. And we knew coming into 2023 that this was going to be a big year for the program from a funding perspective, really trying to show, success and coordination with our legislatures on both sides in Oregon, Washington. That was kind of an important first part of the year, and then that'll kind of transition in the middle part of this year into maybe some federal funding opportunities that I'll speak a little bit about. And then, as Greg had alluded to, obviously near the end of the year, we're looking to publish our draft supplemental environmental impact statement. So there's a lot of work going on in the program, and I wanted to just give a little bit of an update on the finance plan. So if you can go to the next slide, please. I just wanted to start it by reminding everyone about the cost estimate and how we developed that. In summer of last year, the partners for the program endorsed the modified locally preferred alternative. And once we had that kind of new identified scope, we were able to update our cost estimates to try to be reflective of, the timing that we'd be building this program, as well as the scope that was being discussed. This finance plan is not the final finance plan that we'll have. As a program like this that's going to go on for multiple seasons and multiple years until we can get to construction. We know that this is a snapshot in time at today, and that as we look to these different opportunities I'll talk about, we'll be updating this finance plan. And another key part of a program like this is as we advance design and advance an understanding and coordinate with groups like the Equity Advisory Group and the Community Advisory Group. The definition, the design of the program will be refined, and that will allow us to continually refine our cost estimates as well. So once again, this is a snapshot, but feels pretty good, reflecting where the program is right now. Next slide, please. And so what is in the cost estimate? On this slide, we're just really trying to explain kind of a little bit of the scope that's in the estimate right now. So we are, estimating the modified locally preferred alternative, as I had said. The investments that'll be taking place within that, are replacing the I-5 bridges that go over both the main Columbia River, but also what we refer to as the North Portland Harbor, which is the waterway on the south end of Hayden Island, between Hayden Island and Marine Drive. We are looking to put back the existing 3 general purpose lanes, but also adding 1 auxiliary lane, which is a lane that really allows for connection between the closely spaced interchanges. This does include multimodal solutions, so it's extending light rail from Expo, where it currently ends, and across both the North Portland Harbor and the Columbia River into Vancouver, adjacent to I-5 with an Evergreen station. And then it also includes Hayden or interchange work on both Hayden Island, Marine Drive, as well as the Washington interchanges as well. So this cost estimate was developed with the understanding of the schedule to which we were proposing to deliver the construction on. And so right now, our target for construction is to begin late 2025, early 26, and the duration for the entirety of this program could be up to about 10 years to build it. So this estimate takes that into account, that there will be inflation to get to what we refer to as kind of the year of expenditure, which means if we start a construction contract, for example, in 2025, there may be a different price to that contract than if you started it in 2030. And so we've looked at scheduling this program and figuring out when each potential element of the program may start construction, so that we could estimate it in that year of expenditure, and account for the fact that materials and things like that may cost more. The total price range for the modified local for alternative is between 5 and 7.5 billion, with the modeling that we did really kind of focusing on the most likely cost to be 6 billion. That range is based on, you know, different risks that we may encounter. And so like the upper end of that range would be if we are for some reason not able to meet the target schedule that we have, and, you know, the entirety of construction shift, you know, a year or two, you would see the inflation effect on the entire program, you know, rising the costs, because, you know, staying on schedule is one of the key pieces to being able to meet that most likely schedule or cost here. So next slide, please. And this is a kind of a new way for us to be displaying the costs. So wanted to share this with the group. So if you add all these costs up, it equals that 5 to 7.5 billion range. But we really wanted to kind of give an understanding of where the costs on the program are, because, you know, I think we get a lot of questions of, you know, how much of it is the bridge, how much of it is the transit, how much is the interchanges on both sides. And so you can see the 4 different colors, or the labels that we have here, differentiate between what would be labeled C is what we call the bridge, the replacement bridge and approaches. So building the new bridge, you know, is one thing, but you have to be able to reconnect it back to the existing freeway, because we're looking to build this bridge downstream for construction reasons while we maintain I-5 traffic. And so you can see that the range of cost for just the bridge replacement and the approaches is in the 1.6 to 2.45 billion range. You know, to go along with that, if you look at the kind of the dark blue color, which is labeled A, those are the interchanges in Washington. So right now it's showing some improvements or investments into 4 of these interchanges. So there's SR14, which is right at the river that connects into that bridge and approach work. There's the Mill Plain area, which is the interchange immediately north of 14, Fourth Plain, and SR500. And so we've currently shown that the estimate of those interchange and highway and roadway connection improvements to be in the 1 to 1.5 billion range. Kind of conversely, if you go to the bottom of the picture here and you look at D, sorry, I'm jumping around because it's easier to kind of talk through these things kind of simultaneously. But if you look at D, which is the teal color, those are very similar to the Washington interchanges. Those are the Oregon interchanges that we're looking to propose as part of this program. And so if you'll recall the discussions about the partial interchange for Hayden Island, the replacement of that Harbor Bridge and the Marine Drive interchange, that, you know, all inclusive for those kind of Oregon highway costs is approximately 1 to 1.57 billion. So, you know, it kind of shows at this phase of our development, you know, pretty balanced between the roadway highway improvements on both sides of the river, you know, when you take out the bridge and the approaches. And then kind of the fourth main kind of bucket of cost information is what we label as B, and it's shown as orange, which are the transit investments that we're looking to make. That's that extension of light rail from Expo on the south end to Evergreen in the Vancouver side. That also includes, you know, some stations. There'd be 3 new proposed stations, as well as the potential for studying some park and rides potentially to help, you know, make sure that our ridership can be maximized as much as possible. So this is, I think, one of the only changes since the last time we presented. It's kind of showing how these different pieces and elements of the program kind of work all together to get to the estimate. So next slide. Yeah, so this really gets to, and I think we may have shown a version of this in the previous time we presented, but this really is trying to get to the kind of the crux of the finance plan that we have, the financial plan, which is showing those different sources that Greg had already kind of started to allude to. So the upper part of this chart, as you can see, there's three of them that have status of committed. Those are the funds that both states have given to us already. The top line item is the funds that the program's currently using to do the work we're doing right now. the work that we're doing to get through our environmental work, as well as, being able to support like this group and have this group help support design. There's two other funding that's been identified and committed. One is the Mill Plain interchange that I mentioned, which was the first interchange, I guess after the bridge and approaches ends on the Washington side, as well as the Move Ahead Washington funds that we received in legislature last year. As Oregon, or as Greg alluded to, Oregon did, drop a bill late last week that showed, their potential $1 billion to match the Move Ahead Washington. So we're really encouraged by that support. So, with those kind of what I'd call state identified sources, we're just about 2.2 billion if you look at it. And so another key piece that Greg had mentioned, we saw some good movement on, is the toll funding. And right now we're looking for tolls to fund about $1.25 billion. So between the tolls and the state funds, you're almost to $3.5 billion. So how do we get to the rest of the $6 billion? You can see the bottom of this is really looking to federal grants and opportunities that this program needs to take advantage of, because these are generational type opportunities with the passage of the IIJA, the Investment in Infrastructure and Jobs Act that passed in DC, and I think 2 years ago. And so the program will be looking to get $1 billion potentially out of an FTA grant that will help us fund the transit extension, as well as $1.5 billion between two other grants, which we call out the MEGA grant and the Bridge Investment Program grant. Both of those are part of that IIJA. These three grants are applications that we will be looking to put in as we move through this year. So I'm going to pause for 1 sec before I go to the next couple of slides and see if there's any questions. I just gave a lot of detail with 2 slides, and I want to make sure to see if anyone has any questions yet before I finish out with some of our next steps and other things. Okay, well, I'll pause at the end as well. So if there's any more questions, let me know. But if you can go to the next slide, Jake. So, some of the, as we mentioned, some of the recent funding updates that we wanted to give, I know there's a lot of questions about tolling, as Greg said, and I said, the Washington legislature is looking to provide tolling authorization, which means both states will have authorized the ability for this facility to be tolled. But that's just the first real step. It's a major step to get that tolling authorization. But then, kind of there's a next step, which is working with the 2 transportation commissions, the Oregon Transportation Commission and the Washington Transportation Commission, to move forward with the rate setting process. In both states, the commissions are responsible to set the rates for tolling. But we've already been coordinating with those 2 commissions to do some tolling scenarios that for this environmental process that we're in, that can help us understand what the potential revenue is and what the impact to traffic, for instance, might be with the implementation of the toll. And so you can see we've actually worked with the treasurers and the headquarters from both states to see that we do feel pretty good that our initial analysis says that we can hit the target that our financial plan is looking for with the 1.2 billion from tolling. And that's, using rates that are somewhere varying between $1.50 per trip and $3.55 per trip. The reason there's a range for that is that we are looking to potentially have variable by time of day tolls, which means during the peak periods, the tolls may be higher than the off-peak period. And so we'll be working, I'm sure, through that a lot, and wanting to get input from this group as we progress through some of the toll work. Next slide. Oh, before I go on, stay there, go back. One of the things we are working in coordination with the commissions is to look into a low-income toll program. So we are considering a couple of options for a low-income toll program in some of the scenarios that we're currently studying in our traffic and revenue study. It's a level 2 traffic and revenue study that we do for tolling. It does have 2 scenarios right now that would look to potentially have some kind of a low income toll program, in the scenario. And obviously there's a lot more work for us to do before we get to toll rate setting. The toll rate setting usually happens right before you're trying to implement a toll. The soonest we could implement a toll on this program would be probably mid to late 2026. So that's where I say there's still some work to do with toll rate setting, and I'm pretty sure this group will be involved as we move through that process. Next slide. As I mentioned, federal funding updates. The program is really looking to take advantage of that mega grant and bridge investment grant program. These are programs that didn't exist, for example, during the previous iteration of this program. And so if you read some of these grant programs too, they sound a lot like what this program is looking to do. They really are looking for programs that are trying to look for a multimodal approach to solving the transportation needs. And we feel pretty good that our program should be competitive for these grant programs. And so we'll be definitely looking to apply for these 3 grants, or these 2 grants, or one comes kind of early in the year. So any day now, we're waiting for the mega grant notice of funding opportunity to come out, and likely we'll submit that application in the May timeframe. That's last year, at least that's when the timing was for that process. And then a little bit later this year, which is probably August or September, is when we'd be submitting for the Bridge Investment Grant Program. And I, as I mentioned, for transit, we're seeing some really good information coming out of the transit work that's going on. Some of the work between C-Tran and TriMet, our partners, are showing good ridership on the proposed alignment and proposed work that we're doing. We think we'll be fairly competitive for the transit funding as well. And we'll be looking to put in our letter for moving into request to move into program development for that process probably this summer as well. Next slide. So as I had kind of mentioned, it's kind of a big year right now as far as trying to get to really identifying the financial plan for this program. I think some of us who've been on this program, either in this iteration or the previous one, are pretty excited because if all goes the way it looks like it could be going, we may leave the year of 2023 with almost all of the funding for the program secured, and that's a major milestone for us. Obviously, there's still a big hill to climb to get there. But we need to do everything we can to look for the opportunities to fund this, and so as I've kind of laid out, those getting through the legislative sessions and supporting whatever our 2 legislatures need from the program as far as information or questions or responses is our number 1 focus right now, and then successful applications being submitted in the middle of the year is kind of the next step, and then as we move toward the end of the year, we'll publish our environmental documents and move into next year where we'll get the final documentation done and really try to get to construction, which our target is late 25, early 26 for construction to begin. So with that, I think there's one more slide, maybe, Jake, or is there one more? I couldn't remember.
That's it.
Okay. So I think one of the questions, if there aren't questions from you, that we want to make sure to get out there is we'd like the group to discuss what sometimes cost estimates and finance plans are really thick topics. I work with numbers all day, so it's something that I maybe get a little too detailed about, but what other information might be good for us to share, or is there more about this that this group might be interested in wanting to discuss and learn about? Because I ran through that pretty quickly. It's a lot of technical numbers and information, and really want to know if it hit the mark or if there's something better or just more detailed that the group might be interested in. So with that, I'll pause and see if there's anyone that had thoughts. Oh, I see Vicky. I think you might have gone first, and then George.
Well, I'm not sure this addresses your question to us, but I'm curious about Amtrak and whether that fits into the picture somehow. I know that it's such a convenient way to stay off I-5 to go to Seattle. And the one thing about the station in Vancouver is that they allow you to park there, and they seem to have room for parking, a parking structure. And it seems like that could be helpful for people in Vancouver.
Yeah, that's a good question, Vicky. As far as what the investments that this program is making directly, we are not looking to do anything with our Amtrak's Cascade service. But that is a service that both ODOT and WashDOT, through agreements with Amtrak, we own and operate, the Amtrak Cascade service. And so, there may be things that we can work on, during construction or doing some, specific things that could be beneficial. But as far as like investments in that, operation right now for this program, it isn't something this program is doing. But we definitely know that they're a service that's there. In fact, whenever we need to go up to Seattle to meet with FTA or one of our federal partners, U.S. Coast Guard, if we can take the train, that's the preferred way to get up there. So we hear you. We support our. In fact, I worked on Amtrak. Oh, you can't see it, of course, but I worked on the Amtrak Cascades for a while with our project we did recently, and so definitely supportive of them. But this program won't be making any clear investments for them. But we'll definitely coordinate with them.
So Frank, one other thing that needs to be mentioned, our program is tremendously supportive of the look at high-speed rail that is being looked at between Portland and Vancouver, Canada. So we are very, very much supportive of all modes of transportation. Right now, Amtrak runs on the Burlington Northern tracks, which is owned by Burlington Northern. They own the rail bridge across the Columbia. And once again, they are a separate entity, a privately owned entity that a lot of folks have suggested that we utilize their bridge to do certain things, which is tremendously complex when you're dealing with a private entity. So, but yeah, we are supportive of all modes of transportation to take some of the pressure off of the I-5 corridor.
So I think George. Oh, sorry. Thank you, Dr. Ram.
Sure. So, a lot of numbers are thrown out there, and this I know is going to be one of the largest construction projects in the United States. Has there been a decision made on who the general contractors are? Also, has there been parameters discussed as far as what the percentage for the minority workforce, what is going to be the amount of self-performed work that's going to be allowed by the general contractors, how much are we going to allow for out-of-state workers to come into Oregon? So these are some of the questions that I have in regards to, this is a large project that, a large portion of this is coming from the federal government. Are we ensuring that this is staying here in Oregon and also being led by, of course, the minority workforce?
That's a great question, George. I think that right now we have not identified a contractor. Let me put that right out there out front. With this program, if you think about the picture I showed where all the costs with the different locations were, there's no one single construction contract that's going to get all of that work done. In previous iterations of this program, we had identified that, you may need 20 plus construction contracts just to achieve this whole program's worth of work. You know, and I think we're doing that effort right now to figure out how many construction contracts, what are the size of the contracts, to get exactly to what you're getting at right there right now, which is, you know, are there opportunities for us to have some, you know, smaller contract that, you know, for sure there's at least a local prime that's going to get a, you know, prime a piece of it. And if there's an opportunity for us to get an MBE as a prime, that'd be, you know, or an MBE or DBE as a prime, that'd be great. So we're absolutely in that process right now, really trying to figure out how to deliver and break up this program. And, you know, we will have, you know, goals on all of those different construction contracts. We're also, you know, actively working to figure out how we would be delivering those, not just how many, but how. You know, there's a lot of different alternative delivery methods that you can use for construction that, you know, there's the you know, olden days, I like to say, because we like the alternative delivery now, but it used to be, you know, you design, you bid, and you take the low bidder and you build it. There's maybe not going to be a lot of that on this program, you know, design build, progressive design build, construction manager, general contractor. You know, those are kind of delivery methods that we're really looking into for this program, and you know, we'll actively you know, be doing over the course of the kind of the next several months and year, so that we can get to work with our federal partners and set goals and go through that process. And so, yeah, we don't have a set goal for construction yet, but we'll definitely, you know, for each contract be setting those goals.
You know, just a follow-up comment on that is, you know, when we think of this group and this call, the efforts that we're putting forward to develop equity along this process, is that I hope that the Interstate Bridge is that we as a group that we are helping develop and implement what those parameters are. So that way we are part of this change that needs to be able to show up. And that it's not that the Interstate Bridge has created this and now you're coming to the Equity Council, that the Equity Council is the tip of the spear as the contract language, and who we are bringing aboard is going to be what is the driving force in the change that we need when we think about procurement and this massive project to actually complete it.
And I'll add real quick, I think, yeah, we're right in line there. And it one of our core equity objectives is around economic opportunity and workforce equity, and specifically calls out how we focus on the jobs, who gets the jobs, who gets the contracts, and that we are doing so through that equity lens, and you know, being ambitious towards that equity objective.
Well, and I wonder, Jake or Aiden, if this might be a good moment to spend a minute or two on the workforce study that we are undertaking, because I think it gets a little bit to what you're even more to what you're getting at there, Jake. I don't know. I think we might have a minute or two to be able to do that. Should we? Or
I think we're probably okay.
Okay. Okay. If this group knows about the okay.
I
do see Josh has one more
saying
hand.
we're probably okay time-wise.
Oh, okay. Go ahead. Yeah, we were two over. I don't know, Aiden, if you wanted to jump in and just give a quick
I can give a high level overview, and then I definitely want to get to Josh's question. So we are about to endeavor into a contract with Work Systems on the Portland side and Workforce Southwest Washington on the Vancouver side to do a market analysis across the region, looking at what the current labor pool looks like across the region, what other big projects are going on they're going to be pulling from that workforce, where there are gaps in particular workforce, especially when we're going after strong minority and women goals for workforce. And then recommendations around what we can do to not only grow the capacity of that. I know I've reached out, Greg and I have reached out to several of you to have those conversations, but also, you know, how we retain them on a project like this. So we all know that, you know, we want a safe and welcoming work environment once they're on the project as well. So that survey is about to start underway. So I know they'll be reaching out to all of you that work within those fields for information and ideas. So that will come, and we'll bring back that report as it gets delivered along the way, they're going to deliver segments along the way, but it'll definitely be completed by the end of this year. So we'll make sure to keep everyone on this call in the loop on that.
Okay, and Josh?
Yeah, thank you for the information. So just had a question going back to the transit investments and funding sources that you spoke to earlier, that 1.3 to 2 billion number. Does that include operation costs, or how is that captured or reflected? Or can you just give a little more context around that?
Yeah, that's a good question, and I should have been clear on that. The numbers that we've shared right now are the capital investments that are needed to build the capital part. The O&M, the maintenance operation and operation costs are an active part of a conversation that's going on between all the transit agencies and the DOTs right now to identify what would the estimated kind of yearly operation and maintenance costs be, and what sources of funding may there be, because right now the financial plan that I presented was really focused on the capital construction, and we do have that other piece of the operation and maintenance, and that will be information that we're currently developing that will be ultimately in our draft supplemental EIS, but we're still kind of working on what is the estimate and what are the available sources for that. And so we will have that information as we get a little bit closer to the EIS, but yeah, no, that's a good question. I should have been very clear. That was just the capital costs right now that I presented, and we will be able to share the O&M when we get a little bit more information on it.
So one comment I want to go back to one of George's comments regarding the contractors that may be building this thing. We are going to seek to encourage contracts that invite local and small businesses. But one of the things you cannot do once you have federal dollars, and you cannot have different specifications that discourage any eligible contractor, no matter where they might be located or headquartered, to bid on this project. So on a bridge of this size, you're probably going to see contractors from all over the country show interest, and possibly some foreign contractors that will show interest. But once again, we're seeking to make sure that both Oregon and Washington contractors, along with small businesses, DBEs, have their fair share and fair shot at this work.
Yeah, and one thing to add to that, Greg, and I know we're over time, sorry, Dr. Hunt, but the scale of this, I think it was mentioned, I can't remember if it was you, George, or who mentioned it, but this is the scale of this program. I think is one that workforce study we're going to do, and the education and the continual engagement of this group, as well as getting out there with contractors, is something that we're planning kind of to really need to do, because there's going to be opportunities for a lot of work on this program. Rose Quarter, which is just south of us, is a big program, one of the biggest this region's ever, standalone programs this region's ever seen, and this one might be multiplication tables higher than it, right? I mean, Puget Sound, I think, is used to this amount of work, but this region, Vancouver, Portland, metro region here, I don't think we've seen one program that's brought this level of work. So we want to do what we can to maximize opportunities for local contractors, for DVEs, for all of the people on both sides of the river in this immediate area. And that's one of our main goals here. So sorry, I went 5 minutes over Dr. Hunt.
Thank you. Thank you. People like to talk about money. It's important. All right. Money and opportunity. Yeah. Thank you. All right. So for our next piece, I'm turning over to Cassie to talk about Section 106 of the National Historic Preservation Act.
Hi, thank you for making space for us today. First, I am Cassie. I'm the tribal liaison for the IBR program. I'm actually standing in today for Haley Reff. Haley Reff is our Cultural Resources Program Manager, and she was unable to make it today. So I am not going to try to give her presentation. I'm going to do instead just a high-level overview of Section 106 and cultural resources, really just to kick off and initiate our open house that began today. And instead, I'm going to also offer two alternatives. Haley has a really wonderful presentation on what Section 106 is and why it's important. So we can either have her come back at your next meeting if that's something you have space and time for, or we have actually already recorded that presentation for IBR on the February 9th CAG meeting. So if you don't have time to add Haley back onto the agenda to do her presentation again, that you can view that presentation by going onto the CAG website under February 9th and just view her presentation there. It really is a wonderful presentation, very informative. So if you have an opportunity, we can do either or both. But today we'll do a high-level overview and get our 106 open house started. First, I'm going to actually give Haley a chance to introduce herself from a pre-recorded video that we have, and hopefully you'll be able to see it. Let me see if I can share my screen here. Okay. Are you able to see this is Interstate Bridge Replacement Program? Perfect.
Yep.
All right, and here's hoping you can hear it.
Thank you so much for joining us today to understand Section 106 and cultural resources within the Interstate Bridge Replacement Program area. On this page, you will see the work that we have completed to date as part of our Section 106 compliance process. That includes cultural resources analysis for those resources that are 45 years or older that exist above and below ground within our study area. The area of potential effect, often referred to as the APE, is determined in consultation with our Section 106 consulting parties and is part of the process for understanding cultural resources within the program area. The Section 106 process mandates that federal agencies must assess their effects to cultural resources within the project area. Our next step is to identify those resources within the area of potential effect that may be impacted by the program. The baseline report is included here on this webpage for your review and engagement. This document also moves through and synthesizes important historical contextual information for the area. This will help us to understand how resources should be identified and broad patterns of history that we should be considering as we understand our impacts to this area. It is important to have public consultation in Section 106 so that we can best understand the history of a place from everyone's perspective and including everyone's voice. Below, you will find an opportunity to provide your input on the documents that we are presenting today, including the Section 106 Area of Potential Effect, the Historic Resources Baseline Survey, and our next steps as part of the program. We look forward to hearing your voice and your input regarding our identification efforts to date.
Okay, so Haley's presentation was a really a great high-level overview of what Section 106 is, but I'll just run through real quickly here. If the Cultural Resources Open House is an opportunity for the public to provide input on the program's area of potential effect to cultural resources, and to share information about resources within that area of potential effect that may be affected by the program, by construction, or by the project itself. So you can get to the website by going to the interstatebridge.org, and then this little menu right here, you can click that and select Cultural Resources Open House. That'll take you right to it. Here, you scroll down, it provides just a basic project background and overview. I won't spend any time going over that. The Cultural Resources review process breaks down what is a historic property. Effectively an historic property under the National Historic Preservation Act, which is Section 106 of the National Historic Preservation Act. Historic property is any resource that is really 50 years or older. We're looking at 45 years or older so that we can capture those resources that might turn 50 years old by the time we begin and get through construction. So it's any resource that could be eligible for listing on the National Register. It's something that is significant to the local community, either for its association to a person, to an event in history, for unique characteristics, or for its research value. So we're seeking information on what these historic properties might be. And in the future, we'll be seeking information on what types of effects we might have. But our first step is identify resources. So the area of potential effect, you can actually see by scrolling down on here. You'll see the Section 106 process broken down. We're here at the very beginning, identifying properties. Continue to scroll down, and the website will take you to a map showing our area of potential effect. The APE is this section highlighted in red. The section highlighted in red, you can scroll in on any portion or part of it, move the map around with your mouse, and you can select on these blue dots. These blue dots are resources that have already been identified through previous efforts, either under the previous iteration of the project, the CRC, or through research our team has already conducted. These historic properties are what we're calling our baseline. And now we seek more information on other resources that we might have missed, that we might not know about. When you click on these over here on the left, this one will tell you what it is. So I've clicked on this blue dot and it tells me I've clicked on the bridge itself. And it tells me whether we think that it's eligible or not. You can click on another one here. This will give you the address here. This one is recommended as eligible, and it tells you which criterion it's registered, it's eligible under. Again, those criterion could be person, event, for its characteristics, or for scientific research value. And so the link, there's some links in here that if you want to know which one A is, you can follow those links. But you can click on any of these, it'll pull this information up. I do want to highlight that you'll notice that some of these resources that we've identified appear to be on this map outside of our area of potential effect. That is primarily because of where the tax lots sit. So these blue dots are in the middle of the tax lot layer, of the ownership layer, not on the resource itself. And several of these tax lots are quite large and extend beyond the area of potential effect. So it gives them the appearance of being outside the APE, but in reality, the resource is within it. With a few exceptions where the resource is just close enough to the outskirts of that APE that the team thought it was needed to be considered just because of its close proximity. So this is our area of potential effect. The other thing I will also note about this map is what you're seeing on these blue dots are historic built environment resources. So these are structures, buildings. This does not include archaeological resources or other subsurface resources. We do, of course, seek to identify that information. If members of the public have information about buried resources, certainly we would like that input, but we don't post that information on the map because it is protected under both state and federal law. So that's a high level overview of why we're looking for, what we're looking for. Again, archaeological and historic resources. From here, once we've identified those resources, then we assess them. We determine whether or not they are eligible for the National Register of Historic Places. And then we come back to the public with another open house. So you'll see Haley and I back here again in the wintertime with more information, seeking more public input on the effects to cultural resources. And yeah, that's really, I'm going to keep it there. Otherwise, I'm going to nerd out and we'll spend hours talking about what historic properties are and why they're important. So with that, if you have questions about them, I'm happy to answer any questions you have about this or about Section 106 here today. And maybe I can stop sharing my screen somehow.
And real quick, I'll add, if folks right off the bat have either people to speak with or resources that you're aware of that we should be looking into, please offer those, because we just want to make sure that we're not leaving any stone unturned, sometimes literally.
See, Vicki?
Well, I want to suggest it. You probably have already put this on your list, but the Oregon, is it Portland or Oregon Fair Housing Council does a phenomenal bus tour of historic sites. And they do quite a bit in that Delta Park, Vanport, the Expo Center. The Expo Center, as most of you would probably know, is the place where the Japanese Americans were incarcerated before World War II in the livestock area. And there's been a recent award of some money or a grant or recognition from Metro. And that project or that issue was one of the ones in consideration. The other, anyway, it could be a good thing for this committee if you've not gone on that bus tour, because it really does speak to the racism that's behind why Vanport flooded and why it was built, and many communities, the Native American community has had significant, through powwows on the Delta Park property and others that I think are significant, whether or not they're inside a particular line. And then on the Washington side, the Confluence Project, which was spearheaded by Maya Lin, and maybe some of those projects like the land bridge, which probably will be affected, is very close to the interstate bridge. And but it's the foundation is very historic, so that is another issue. So anyway, the Fair Housing Council, they do charge, but it's a very interesting tour, and I'm sure they could focus on areas along the I-5 corridor for this project.
That's a great suggestion. Thank you.
And sorry, as an engineer, I feel like I need to jump in and let you know, Vicki, that we currently are not showing impacting the land bridge. So we're doing everything we can. We recognize that one as a good connection between the historic preserve and the water and the river. So we are doing what we can to try not to impact that. But good, it's a good call out. Thank you.
Are there any other suggestions or comments or questions about process?
And we will we'll share out the link to this for you all to spread the word about it. It's open. The open house is open till May
18th.
18th. Okay. So there's definitely some time.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so public comment. So Jake will bring up those slides. And all right, comment instructions. So through Zoom, please use the link located in the meeting description on the YouTube meeting page or on the IBR EAG meeting webpage. Commentators will be allowed to turn on their webcams, but will not be allowed to share their screens and will be removed from the room once the public comment period concludes. By phone, dial 253-215-8782, meeting ID 986-0940, 5983, passcode 701376. Dial *9 to raise your hand. Dial *6 to unmute yourself. The facilitator will call on participants to provide comment. Please provide your name and affiliation. Commentators will be given 2 minutes to speak. And if we run out of time and you have not had a chance to speak, you can still provide comments after the meeting. Next slide.
Oh, I was going to put that up after if we don't have any commenters, or after the last commenter goes.
Where are we, Brent?
We do not have anyone signed up for public comment.
Okay. To submit comment after the meeting, fill out the comment form on the program website or email your comments to info@interstatebridge.org with EAG Public Comment in the subject line. Call 888-503-6735 and state EAG Public Comment in your message. All written comments must be received prior to 48 hours in advance of each upcoming meeting in order to be distributed to advisory group members. Comments received after that point will be distributed to members in advance of their next meeting.
And I'll confirm that we did not receive any comments since our last meeting.
Okay, so to wrap up, 3 takeaways, and Brent will put the meeting evaluation poll. 3 takeaways from our time together. Anyone is free to share. For new people, that's how we close out our meetings.
Roberta.
Yes.
Thank you. My apologies for not being here on time. I had some work issues to deal with, but I guess the one takeaway that I could have is jumping in the middle of the IBR financial plan was just to echo what George had said, with a specific concern about contractors and subs, and ensuring that everybody's got an opportunity to participate in what's going to be a huge project for the next couple of years. And then also just to acknowledge what Greg mentioned about the specific requirements when it comes to federal work. So thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
My one takeaway is I'm happy to hear that we're talking about workforce in this, as well as, for workers and There was one other thing. No, just to have a real in-depth project update. You know, I apologize to everybody. I've had some medical issues, so I've been missing for a few months. So it was really great to come back and just hear. I felt like I got caught up quite a bit just from hearing today's.
It's great to have you both here. Nicole.
Hi. As my first meeting to attend, I was really happy to hear about the low income toll program, especially being someone from the Bay Area that had to cross multiple bridges quite often. That would have been an amazing resource. So if that can be spearheaded, I would gladly participate in that.
Great. Barbie.
I would love to jump on both Pat and Nicole's comments that I'm really encouraged to hear about workforce. And if there's one thing I would take away, I would say we need to start now. We need to be reaching out to high school kids. We need to be encouraging and creating information around the IBR so that when the opportunity arises for trade programs, pre-apprentice programs, they're well positioned and understand the background, because it's been an organic grassroots campaign on social media, meeting them where they are. Pat knows I'm going to talk about workforce. And Nicole, I would love to work on that program. If Pat or Frank, I'm sorry, if you have any suggestions, or if you've already worked out how that might look, or you have maybe your top 3 program execution outline. I'm just thinking, if there's a place where we can have alignment with already established infrastructure and just really piggyback and be explicit, that reduces administrative burden and is more inclusive of individuals being able to participate very easily in a deferred program for toll. So thank you.
Yeah, no, I'll jump in on that. I think that there's definitely work for us to do on the low income toll program and on the workforce. Everything you that I think was just said is a goal of this program, that, you know, there's career type opportunities for people who might be in middle school. We were saying middle school, someone said high school, but you know, if we can get out there and show that, you know, this program can provide potential career type opportunities, that's an important thing to get out there. And then as far as the low income toll program, I think there's going to be a lot of work that we'll definitely include this committee on as we move forward. You know, assessing between, you know, what are the 2 states looking at, what's the Oregon toll program looking at, what do we do, you know, if anything in Puget Sound with tolling that's going on up there, and how do we integrate that into this bi-state setting here in a good, meaningful way. So absolutely, I like those 2 takeaways.
Great, thank you everyone. I feel like that was our most robust takeaways. So yay. All right, and future meetings, May 15th, 5:30 to 7:30. We'll be discussing urban design and the NEPA community engagement plan. And June 19th, 5:30 to 7:30. So that is what is up. So mark your calendars and we'll see you soon. Good night, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Good night. Vicky, so
everyone.
good to see you.
Yeah, really great to see everybody.
Yeah, we worked when I was working at the airport.
Lovely.